Microphone check 212. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to It's the Bearded Man podcast with your favorite bearded man, Bobby. You see how we switched up the little intro like that? You know what I'm saying? Coming in a little slow and then coming up fast. Gotta keep you guys and gals on your toes. How y'all doing? How's it going? I know you're saying something, but I can't hear you back, but know that I'm listening. So I hope you're doing fantastic. We are in the building. B.O.B., Bobby, the bearded man. You love him. Hopefully you don't hate him. Because if you did, you probably wouldn't be listening to this podcast. So thank you guys and gals for tuning in. We're at episode 45, which means we're halfway to 50. You know what I'm saying? 45, 50. That's 5 away. Took us 5 episodes to get to 45. You know what I'm saying? Every episode is a small win. So we're just counting them up. We'll be at the 50 before you know it. Then we'll be at 100, 1,000. Might hit 10,000 in a couple years, but hey, don't know where the road's taking us. That's why we're just going to keep on going. And I appreciate you guys and gals listening. I want to give a quick shout out to the review of the week. We don't have these every week because we don't get new reviews every week. So when we do, it's a big celebration for the Bearded Man. And I'm pumped because people take the time to actually write some feedback. And there's a lot of ways you can support this podcast, whether it's sharing out, on socials or hitting me up in the DM. It's all appreciated. But also what helps is the iTunes reviews. And so I want to give a quick shout out to Emmy Strickland for crushing it with the review of the week. She said, love the energy and the topics discussed on the podcast. Can't wait to continue following. I love this because this is a woman and we're starting to trickle in the women. Fellas, I love you too, but hey, I think we have well over 90% listenership of males, and I'm trying to sprinkle in some more women. So I love that Emmy stepped up to the plate. She left the first review for the woman, I think, and I love it. They were at 42 written reviews, and I'd love to be at 50 by the time we hit episode 50. So if we can get 1.5 new reviews a week, is that right? I'm so bad at math. No, let's just double down. We need to get at least... No, we have to get 8. So let's make it 2 new reviews per week until we hit 50, and then we'll be at 50 reviews. I think that's pretty aimable. It's pretty possible. So let's make it happen. Past weekend, always gotta recap. Always gotta keep you guys and gals tuned into what's happening behind the scenes of the Bearded Man. Big weekend for you, boy. First off, I got inked up. Okay, I'm no longer just some guy with 1 tattoo on his forearm. I'm now a tattoo veteran because your boy got 5. Saturday, I walked in. I said, let's do this thing. 5 tattoos. And no, I'm not some psychopath that just was like, woke up one day and said, I'm going to get 5 tattoos. Long story short, had a vision for a tattoo I wanted back in July. I think it was when I was back home. And then I hit up my tattoo artist, because I have 1 tattoo at the time, so I have a tattoo artist. Shout out to Alexis Soul. She's a fantastic artist out of North Hollywood, California. She is somebody that I podcasted with 2 years ago, and she's absolutely crushing it. Anywho, I hit her up. I'm like, yo, Alexis, what's good? It's the Bearded Man. I need another tattoo. Had to schedule it out a couple months due to COVID and her schedule being crazy. And along the way, I started thinking of some other ideas. So we got 5 in total. Number 1, we got the outline of state of Massachusetts on my left bicep so I can see it every day and remind myself of home. We got the number 19,002 on my back right forearm, which represents the total number of Uber rides I did in my career. That's right. I'm wearing it like a badge of honor. 19,002. I'll probably do an episode maybe next week or at some point diving into maybe some of these like specific tattoos. Well, that's kind of the inspiration for today, so we're already making that happen. But yeah, got 19,002 on my right back arm. Then I got the word gratitude on my right thumb to constantly remind myself to be grateful for everything and everyone in my life and all these moments. I got the number 1% on my hand, on my above my pinky knuckle on my right hand. And I love that because that's what I'm shooting to do every single day is grow by 1%, which we're going to get into today, as you probably know by the title. And then the last one is the word winning streak, which is inspired by somebody that I had podcasted with 2 years ago, Charlie Rocket, at Charlie on IG. he pushes this whole motto of winning streak, and how whenever he starts his day off with that cup of coffee from Starbucks, it begins his winning streak. And then when he, gets on a phone call with his mom and talks to her that day, that's part of the winning streak. And he has subconsciously reprogrammed and rewired his mind to see all the good and all the wins in his day that we can easily take for granted. And I love that motto. I love that concept. I've been seeing him promote it heavily for the last 2 years. And I said, ink my body. I want that on me. And so that's above my right knee. So, like I said, your boy's a tattoo veteran, got a lot of ink. I feel real cool, but I actually truthfully love every single piece. And what I love about tattoos, and I was talking to somebody on a podcast yesterday, is I feel like it's just, we can promote and we can, say what our values are, but to actually put it on your body, whatever it might be, whether it's a word, an image, I think there's so much power of like, this is what I represent, or this is what means a lot to me, and just actually putting a piece of art on your body in any way, I think it's just, it expresses how much you believe in that. And so I love all the tattoos that I have. The first one I had, I got a year ago when I stopped driving Uber, started working for Liquid IV, and it says keep going on my left forearm. So very, very busy weekend, and I'm super stoked about that. That was Saturday midday, got that done. And then later that night celebrated a Friendsgiving. It was the first Friendsgiving in LA, which was really dope after being out here for 3 years. Just in the last couple months have met an incredible community of people. Shout out to any of them if they're listening. You know who you are. That's pretty fire that you're actually tuned into the Bearded Man's podcast. So what's good with that? But overall, it was just like an incredible night. 5 out of 5 on the Bearded Man review, without a doubt. 2 little side stories, which I'm not going to get into detail, which is just super funny. But welcome to the life of the Bearded Man. That's what we're here to talk about. Same night at the Friendsgiving, ran into the girl that I have the most absolute crush on. She's for sure the closest real living superwoman I've ever met. Not going to dive into any more of that, but saw her. And then at the same night, at the same time, I ended up running into, and if you've been listening to the podcast back in August, I was like doing like a play-by-play of this girl that I was just starting to see, and I was getting myself back into the dating game of LA, or I shouldn't even say back into it. I was finally stepping my foot into the dating game of LA, so I started documenting it. Hadn't spoken to this girl in 2+ months. It kind of just fizzled out for no particular reason. Then it just wasn't the right timing for either of us or whatever it might be. And I ran into her at this Friendsgiving, and I was like, what in the world? And honestly, it was such a great experience and moment because we were just both genuinely happy to see each other, genuinely happy to see each other like happy and doing our thing. And it was just cool to be like, hey, we're doing our thing. We don't know what happened, but we're just on our own paths. And it just felt good to finally have that, not finally have the conversation, but feel like there was just this ending and either of us knew what happened and nobody really communicated within it. So that was super random, but super awesome. So all that to say, incredible weekend. How can you go wrong when you're the Bearded Man? And then to freaking top it all off, last night, Sunday cook up with your boy, my boy Raph came through from 413 originally, and we did a podcast. So that'll be coming out in a couple weeks just to give you guys a little taste. So that was dope. Also, shout out to Dylan Reese. I don't know if you can hear me, but he's back in the building. Back at the content crib. Let's go, boy. After 6 weeks gone, the third member of the content crib has made it back to the palace. The boys are back. The boys are back in town. The boys are back in town. Yeah, I'll stop that singing. So that's great. We got the third and final roommate back in the content crib. And to speed it all up to today, episode 44 with the legendary John Kilmer dropped on the podcast. Incredible moment because I have been watching John and his entire team from afar since probably 2011, 2012. And it's kind of surreal to actually know him on a personal basis. And I've built some business relationships with him through Liquid IV and podcast partnerships. But to sit down with him and kind of break down his story and how he's gotten to where he is today. He's also from Massachusetts, which I loved. Another masshole, so that was great. And it was an awesome conversation to kind of get his perspective on the last decade of his life, which has just been crazy roller coaster ride of growing with an artist by the name formerly known as Mike Stud. For some of those out there listening, you might know the artist. He now goes by just Mike. But it was awesome. I have grown up listening to their music, and just an incredible podcast. And this guy he produces the Y&K podcast, which they host. He's a music producer. He's a filmmaker. He's the right-hand man for Mike. I mean, this guy just has a lot of stories for sure, but also some wisdom too, which was really, really good. So overall, that's housekeeping. Today's topic, going off of this tattoo that I got, 1% growth per day. That's what we're diving into today. And the reason I got this tattoo is not because I think I'm in the 1%. I did not think this through, did not think about that somebody would potentially think that until at the Friendsgiving, a girl made a comment. She said, "Do you think you're in the 1%? And I said, "No." "Then why do you have the tattoo?" She kind of said it like that. I'm not trying to mock her, but that's kind of how she said it to me, how she communicate with me. And I mean it in all good ha-has and just trying to be funny, but I'm not really funny. And so I was like, damn, people are really going to think that don't know me, like, oh, this guy thinks he's like some hot boy with 1% on his hand. He thinks he's in the 1%, or because he's in the 1%, he has a tattoo. That is so far from why I got this. I got this tattoo as a constant reminder to myself that that's what I try to do every single day. I strive to grow mentally, physically, spiritually, insert any area of my life by 1% per day. Just 1%. Just a small little 1% per day. That's what I shoot for, because I understand that nothing great happens overnight. So what can I do? I can focus on the small wins each and every day. I can count them up, and I can use that as momentum to keep me pushing forward. So that's what we're driving into today. 1% growth per day. We're diving in. But before we do, I got a little favor to ask. And I don't ask for too many favors, so I'm going to ask, okay? Can you guys do me a favor? Nod your head, yes. Yes, I see you guys. You're nodding. Yes, I like that. I like that. Okay, this is the favor. If at all during this podcast, or you know what, matter of fact, right now, if you're enjoying this episode or you enjoy it at some point, screenshot this episode, post it to your IG story, tag me at Babe, B-O, 3 B's, 4 A's, and a Y, and share it out on your IG. Helps me organically grow this project. We are growing month over month. We're crushing it. The numbers are booming, and I want to keep it going that way. So please, if you enjoy this podcast at any moment in time, all that I ask, I'm not asking for money, not asking for your number, not asking for anything except please screenshot the episode, post it to your IG story, and tag me at Babe, B-O, 3 B's, 4 A's, and a Y, and I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. We're going to do a quick water break right now, and then we're going to freaking dive into this. Oh, am I excited. Oh, baby. Nothing more that I love than some high quality water. I'm just having a grand old time, as you guys and gals can tell. Let's do it. 1% growth per day. That's what I'm striving for. That's why I legit tatted this on my freaking hand so I can see it every single day. But where did I get this mindset from? I didn't just pull this out of thin air. I got to give credit where credit is due. Back in March, April-ish, I accepted a YouTube group by the name of Yes Theory. There's this challenge that they developed a couple years ago called the 100 Days of Sweat. COVID had just hit. The world was shutting down. I was freaking out. I'm like, dude, can't go to the gym. What am I going to do? And they put out this challenge, 100 days of consistent sweat, whether it's doing push-ups, yoga, meditating. I mean, literally just, actually meditating probably doesn't count as a sweat, but maybe if you're in the sun, I guess you could rationalize. But they put out this challenge of 100 days of consistent sweat. And so I had always seen the challenge, and I was like, I got to force myself to figure out this at-home workouts, and if I sign up for this challenge, then I got to do it. So I did it, and I did it for 100 days of consistent sweat. I gave myself a little bit of hiccups here and there that if I could miss a day, but I couldn't miss every other day, and I got through the 100. And I dove into this experience. If you want to really hear like the breakdown of what I learned and some, if you want to really know the takeaways and why I got into it and more, I actually did a solo pod on that. It was episode 17, which it sounds like forever ago. We're at episode 45, and that was at episode 17. And mind you, that was only 3 months ago. So we are freaking pumping out content. Will not be stopped. Let's go. Anywho, that's episode 17, 100 Days of Sweat, where I dive into like that whole journey. But overall, one of the biggest takeaways and things that I realized during the challenge was what I loved about the 100 days was that I was essentially aiming for 1% growth per day to hit that 100. So after day one was complete. I had 99 more days to go. I had 99% left. I don't know if they structured the challenge because of that, but I love that mentality. And so that was one of the biggest takeaways that I had leaving that challenge was like, what if I take the same mindset of trying to improve by 1% and I sprinkle this across everything in my life, whether it is mentally, physically, spiritually, career, passion projects, financially. What if I just tried to get 1% better per day? Who could I become? How many goals could I accomplish? What would my progress look like, a week down the road, 3 months down the road? And so this mindset has been so, so crucial. And so I want to dive into some of the biggest mindset lessons that I've learned from it in the hopes that I can sprinkle some bearded wisdom your way, and hopefully it'll help you guys and gals out. So number one, biggest mindset lesson that I've learned from this whole 1% growth per day mindset is think big picture, right? Example, when I knew the 100 days challenge, I knew where I was going, but I had to reverse engineer and go, I can't do anything right now that's going to speed up that 100 days, but what I can do is I can make that 1% progress right now. But what I think is really important, sometimes, it's crazy. I was at a point in my life where I didn't, and I get so happy to doing these podcasts. I start freaking just like going all over the place, and I got to slow down, Bob. You have as much time. You have the whole floor. Nobody else is talking after you, so take your time. Okay. There was a point in my life when I didn't know where I was going, what I was doing. I didn't have, this podcast going. I was trying to figure it out not too long ago. What I think is really important is we have to think big picture. In order to make that growth 1% per day, we have to know the big picture of where we're going. So I would challenge you, close your eyes and actually try to visualize the person you want to become, the career you want to have, the types of people you want to be surrounded by, loving, caring, energy, they motivate you. Think about the places you'd like to live and travel, the things you may want to own. Having an idea of at least what we're working towards, it reminds us of where we're going. And if you don't know the career just yet, that's okay. Think about what are the things that you enjoy the most. If you're somebody that's into sports, how could you imagine your life waking up every day where you're just talking about sports or you're diving into sports, like anything within that world. Think about the things that make you the happiest and visualize you doing that every single day. There is a way to make a living doing any of that. I mean, your boy's an example. Somehow, some way, the world has taken me to a place where I'm career-wise, I'm helping media buy for podcasting space for a company, Liquid IV, the best hydration brand in the Bay. The best hydration brand in the world, baby. And then I'm also doing this. This is also my passion project. So I think you have to kind of have an idea of where you're going. And the thing about having an idea of where we're going, we have to accept that we are not going to have the perfect blueprint of how to get there. We're actually, and I've talked about this on previous podcasts, like you're writing the script of your own story every single day. It's very similar with like your life. You're writing and creating your blueprint of your life every single day, and ours is going to be different than everybody else's. So we have to accept that wherever this big picture is, our story, our journey is going to be unique. It's going to be different than anybody else's. And as long as we can accept and understand that we'll never have it truly all figured out, it will always just be a work in progress, a WIP, not a WAP, as Cardi B would say, a WIP, a work in progress. So once again, have an understanding of where you want to go, but slow it down and think about now that you know the big picture, what are the things that you're doing every single day that are helping you get there? As long as you know where you're trying to get to, you're going to eventually get there, but you need to have that big picture, because if we're making decisions daily and we don't even know where we're going or where we're trying to go, we don't have, I would call it a true north of going, that's where we're going. So if this opportunity doesn't help me get a little bit closer, or in today's context, 1% closer to that goal of where I'm trying to go, then you say no. But if you have no idea where you're actually going, then you might say yes to everything, or you might say no to something that actually is beneficial. So keep that in mind. Think big picture. Number 2, this is really important, and I talked about this yesterday on a podcast. Lean into the challenges. Don't run away from them. Don't get stressed out from them. Lean in. You guys remember that song? Lean with it, rock with it, lean with it, rock with it, lean with it, rock with it. You know what I'm saying? Don't remember who sings that. Wish I knew. Lean into the challenges. Even if we had the blueprint, even if the bearded man sent you in the mail your blueprint for your life, challenges are going to occur. It is literally inevitable. Even if you had the perfect blueprint, something's going to happen. Some hiccup is going to happen. There's no question about it. It's just inevitable. It's part of life. Doesn't matter the industry you're in. Doesn't matter your goals. Challenges will arise. And it's not, most of the time, it's uncontrollables. It's things that we can't control, and therefore we should not stress it. Not you, I'm not trying to, point the finger at you, because I'd say we, in general, human beings, the best thing that we can do for ourselves is control the controllables, the things that we can control in our life. Don't stress out on the things that are not in our control, because we couldn't control it. We had no decision. If a girl decides or a guy decides they're not interested in you, that's not your decision. Maybe actions and things you did in the past led to that, but you can't make that decision for somebody else. You can only control the controllables. So we need to change the mindset of X is happening to me, and instead think it is happening for me. So it's not it's not happening to you, like boo-hoo, woe's me. It is happening for you. It's changing the mindset and the perspective on the challenges that you come across. So when problems arise, we don't get worked up or overwhelmed. We embrace it and we lean right into it. We don't go running in the opposite direction. We don't freaking sit on the ground and cry and complain. Hey, don't get me wrong. Let me just say this. If there's times when there are challenges and you got to cry it out, please do. I don't know, I'm like getting in that flow, like, don't you cry, don't you run the other direction. That's not what I'm trying to say. If emotionally you got to let things flow, let it flow. But at the same time, when you let that out, you got to lean into that, baby. You got to lean right into that challenge. And I'll give you a perfect example. Yesterday I had this podcast. Originally it's scheduled at 3 p.m. I got a text from my boy a couple days ahead. He goes, can we push it to 5? I go, yeah, it's fine. No problem. And then again, yesterday he said, can we push it to 5:30? No problem. Let's do it. But even then, when he texted from 5 to 5:30 the day of, there was a little resistance in my mind. Oh, come on, dude. You already pushed it from 3 p.m. to 5. Now you want to go to 5:30. Is he going to text me at 5 o'clock, say, can we do 6? I don't like playing those games. I'm a punctual person. When I say I'm going to be somewhere, I'm there. Unless something really happens where I have to ask for more time, I'm exactly where I need to be at the right time. And most of the time I'm early, so I'm not late. But in that moment when he texted me saying, you mind if we do 5:30? There was that moment where I'm annoyed. In my mind, I'm like, why can't you be here, dude? You're already committed. Whatever you're doing, you already had plans to be here. But then I quickly changed the mindset. I changed the lens, or changed the perspective. And I go, I can actually utilize this extra 30 minutes. I can finish this podcast that I'm listening to. I can read more of a book. I can call somebody if I want to. I can utilize that extra 30 minutes to my advantage. And if it's going to give him more breathing room so that when he gets here, we can have a great podcast and a great conversation, then fine. I'll see you at 5:30. If he said, yo, can I come through at 10? That's a little different, right? It's like, bro, you said 3, we said 3, now it's 5, then 10 doesn't, do Do you respect my time or not? But something like that where it's reasonable. I'm like, yeah, I can spare the 30 minutes. And maybe some of you are listening and like, anybody ask me for an extra 30 minutes, I don't even think twice. Well, that's fine. I'm just somebody who's very particular about his time and time management to a T. And so a moment like that could easily get in the past before I had trained my mind and like really started to see things differently. I would have gotten more worked up or stressed out. But that was an example where I leaned into the challenge of time is changing and it's, getting pushed, but how can I make this work to my advantage? So lean into the challenges in any area of your life. Number 3, is this really important? Patience, and guess what? Patience. You knew it. You knew it was coming. But you didn't want to hear it. Patience is the key, ladies and gentlemen. We all hate to hear it, but it is the absolute truth. Write this on a sticky note, stick it to your wall, stick it to your head. Don't matter to me. Patience is going to be the key. The quote that we all hate, all great things take time. We've heard it plenty of times. Hate it or love it. The truth is the truth, baby. Accept it. But once again, we need to change the perspective to how this is happening for us. That's what we need to change it to, not to us. Like, it's taking me longer to get to where I want to be. The world's against me, blah, blah, blah. No. This is happening for us. I want to give you guys a great example. When I first got into this podcast game, I think it must have been probably from listening to like Gary Vee's content, maybe Lewis Howes, and really diving into like the whole self-help world. But I fortunately realized that the longer it takes me to get the bigger guests, the higher caliber guests, the really successful ones, the longer it takes me to get them on the show, the better it is for me. Once again, this isn't happening to me. It's actually happening for me because I wasn't ready for these big time guests. If you told me on episode 1 you can have Gary Vee, I would have said yes, but I would not have been ready for it. I would have treated that conversation much differently than had I interviewed him at episode 100. Episode 1, I was beginner, didn't know what I was doing. I would have got choked up on the mic. And I still probably would to this day if I had him on a show. I was all over the place. Episode 100, I would have carried the conversation much more confidently. I definitely feel much more confident behind the mic. It's 2 different times in my life. So I have reminded myself, and I put this in my brain of mine, this big head of mine, that the longer it's taking me to get to where I want to be, it gives me more time to put in reps, to hone in on the craft so I'm ready for that opportunity. Similarly, we could do this with anything in our life. We could all use that extra time to get stronger, smarter, more prepared. Enter any area of your life you're working on. Instead of getting frustrated about not getting to the destination where you want to be, which is usually not in your control for the most part, unless you're just not putting in the effort. If you are putting the effort, have consistently been working on something or trying to get to a job or whatever it might be, you can only control that. And if it's taking you longer to get there, you got 2 options. You either complain and get really unmotivated because it's taking you longer than you anticipated that for this time expectation that you had put in your own mind or somebody else had, or the better route, you can go, this is great. I'm getting better. I'm more prepared. I'm learning this. I have more time to get better at this. You can change the lens of it, change the perspective. So I think that's really, really important, is almost like falling in love with patience and just knowing that if it's going to take another day, it's going to take more time, great. And anytime you start to feel anxious and overwhelmed, I want you to do one small whittle favor for me. Whittle, W-I-T-T-L-E. I want you to do one small favor for me. Because there was a time when I definitely would get anxious and worked up early on in the podcast game, like, holy shit, I'm trying to build this, I'm trying to do this. And when you allow yourself to think farther in the future, oh boy, that can be a runaway train that could ruin the day, could ruin the week. Because your mind is years ahead and you're physically in this very moment, and that's a problem. You got to bring the mind back. You got to rope it back in. But this is something that is very helpful. Anytime you're feeling anxious or overwhelmed, think of me and think of this voice right now. Clip this part of the podcast if you need to. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath in. Now take a deep breath out. Let's do that one more time. Take a deep breath in. And now take a deep breath out. How's that feel? You feel grounded? Feel like weight has been taken off your shoulder? You're not so anxious. Your mind's not running 1,000,000 miles an hour. Maybe it's now down to 10. We still got to bring it back down to, maybe 1 or 2 miles per hour. But you feel better, right? You got to reset yourself sometimes. Slow down. Slow that mind down. Pick up meditation. I can't say it enough. Don't let your mind get caught up on where you aren't yet. I know I said earlier, think big picture. Yes, take a moment, pause, think about the big picture, think about where you're going to be in a couple of years, just to kind of give you some inspiration, I don't want to say confidence, but inspiration for where you're going, a little reset, but then immediately come right back to the moment. Refocus on where you are right now, because all you can control is this moment. Anytime you're feeling anxious and worked up, close your eyes, take a deep breath in, take a deep breath out, do it as many times as you need. You got to go 5 reps, 10, 100, 1,000. You do what you got to do. You calm yourself down. You slow your mind down. You slow everything down. You get refocused to the present moment. And do that. Patience, patience, patience. Write it down on a sticky note. If you're good at Photoshop my face. Put patient on my forehead. Maybe you can, if you're really good, put it on my beard. Do what you got to do. Patience is the key. Fourth, final mindset lesson that I've learned for this 1% growth per day is kind of wrapping everything up. Focus on the small wins. Oh, do I love that. I'm such a big advocate for focusing on the small wins. So how do we stay focused on the now? Similar to what we were just talking about, when your mind's running 1,000,000 miles an hour, you're thinking ahead, thinking about the future. How do you focus on the now? You look for the 1 to 3 things that you can do today that will better you for tomorrow. Whether it's sending out that cold email, whether it's applying for that job, whether it's reading 20 pages of a book, whether it's getting that workout in, whether it's shooting that shot with the person you're attracted to, it doesn't matter. Find 1 to 3 things a day that will better you for tomorrow. And sometimes there's going to be those days where that one task takes the entire day. And that's okay. If you don't have, some days you'll have 5 small wins. Some days you'll have 3 medium size. Some days you'll have 1 major win. Some days you'll feel like you don't have a win. You don't have anything you could journal down and say that was a win. But I guarantee you there's 0.25 of a win. Maybe there's 0.5 of a win. Something that's setting you up for a bigger win. So find those things that are helping you better yourself for tomorrow. You guys ever play Jenga? You know that game you stack blocks on, right? This game isn't ready to be played when you take it out. You have to stack block by block by block in order to enjoy the pleasure of playing. Similarly, we need to stock our blocks, which I would say each block resembles 1 to 3 wins per that day after day after day, in order to enjoy the pleasure of living the life that we've always wanted to live. So think of it in context to that. Your tower of Jenga is your goal, the thing that you're really passionate and can't wait to achieve. Some of those Jenga towers are going to take 5, 10 blocks, maybe 15, maybe 20 if you're lucky. Some are going to take a lot more. They're going to take 50. Some are going to take 100. Some are going to take 1,000. But as long as you're looking for those 1 to 3 small wins a day and you're putting down your block, you're 1 step closer. You're 1% closer. Block by block, you got to build it. And what can help people, if you're a visual person and you need to write it down, and I've done this in the past where when I was trying to rewire my brain to think in this mindset, I would actually journal my wins because I needed to physically and write it out and remind myself, this is what you accomplished today. At the end of the day, you might feel like, oh, I didn't accomplish much, but I would write out the things that I accomplished and I go, I actually had a successful day. And so I would do that for, every day. And then I would look back after a week and I go, wow, I did a lot. And then I would look back on that month and I go, holy shit, Bearded Man, you're on a roll. And then I'd look back on the quarter and a year and you're like, damn, I've accomplished a lot. And so if you need to do it, journal it out. If it's by day, if it's by week, if you need to see the growth, write it down. And here's a tip of advice from the Bearded Man journey, okay? This is just my little bearded wisdom. Take what you want. I don't have all the answers. I'm just sprinkling a little bit of wisdom of what I've learned in my 26 years of living this earth. You know what I'm saying? If you're miserable in the day-to-day grind, you are going to absolutely hate that finish line. If you're miserable every single day trying to do that thing, and you're not trying to enjoy the process and count up those small wins and trying to lean into the challenges and seeing everything from a positive light perspective, you're going to hate the finish line. Because that feeling is going to come and go so much faster than it took you to get there. Might take you months, might take you years to get somewhere. And when you finally get there, you're going to go, holy shit, I did it. You're going to celebrate that day, maybe that weekend. And a few days after that, you're on to the next challenge. So if you're not enjoying the actual process, you're going to hate the finish line. We have to fall in love with the journey of the day-to-day grind and appreciate it for what it is. I know a lot of things that I talk about probably sounds like I am repeating and you've heard it a million times, but self-development and self-growth is about continuously reminding yourself of the lessons and the values and the mindsets of what it takes to accomplish your goals and what you're shooting to accomplish. So sometimes it can seem repetitive, but you have to continuously remind yourself. I do this every day. I'm listening to podcasts. I'm rewiring my brain. I'm journaling. I'm reminding myself of what I'm working towards, who I'm becoming, all the great things that are happening in my life. So it can be repetitive, but it's really, really important to count up those small wins. And I'll give you an example because I love giving examples. If you follow me on IG, you have probably seen these freaking bizarre pre-podcast hype IG posts that I throw on my story before a podcast guest comes in. It's me with music on, in a mirror, dancing to a mirror like some freaking Looney Tune, and I'm just having a freaking day. I'm just so hyped to have a podcast coming, and I like to show people like, Bobby's got a podcast coming in. He's posting that pre-podcast hype. Why do I do this? For your entertainment, for people to laugh, partially. But I do it because I want to treat each and every podcast as if it's the World Series, as if it's Game 7 of the NBA Finals, as if this is the moment. I did the same thing before I recorded this solo podcast tonight. I threw on Tootsie Slide by Drizzy Drake, my boy, and I went ham. And I had a little dance sesh in the mirror, hyping myself up, getting fired up for this solo podcast. I don't ever want to allow myself to just mail it in. I don't want to just treat this like another episode, like another solo pod. I don't want to treat a homie coming through for a podcast and just treat it like, oh, my boy's coming, mail it in, no big deal, got to get that hyped. I don't want to treat it any different than if it was a celebrity or somebody that I am like so excited to meet. I want to treat every podcast as if it is the one. The one as in the best podcast of my life, the biggest takeaways that I've ever had, the one that blows me up, insert anything. I want to treat every single podcast the same way and come in with hot and high energy. Why? Because it helps me be more present, helps me be more appreciative of the actual podcast, as well as it's me expressing gratitude for this step of this podcast game. Every episode I put in is a new rep, whether it's solo, whether it's with a guest, whether it's with a group of people. Every single podcast to me is a rep. Getting better, getting stronger, learning, honing in on the craft. I posted something in my IG last week, and maybe you saw it. Shout out to Sam Snowden for the fire content. I've done over 200 plus podcasts, and I still feel like I'm just getting started because that's my mindset. I've done 200, but I can't wait to be at 4, and I can't wait to be at 1,000. And I've learned so much in 200, but I know I'm going to learn even more in the next 200. It's that growth mindset of knowing there's always more room to grow. There's always more room to improve. I can't wait for the next 200. And so I try to do that with all these podcasts. I get super hyped. I get fired up. I have a little dance session. I bring the energy up. Sometimes I got to bang out some push-ups on those 7 p.m. Guest podcasts when they're coming through. Get the energy, get the blood flowing. But ultimately, I live the moment and I appreciate it and I focus on that win of that podcast, because to me, recording a podcast is absolutely a win. So to recap, in order to live by this mindset of 1% growth per day, I think there's a couple lessons and takeaways that I've learned in my bearded man journey. Number one, think big picture. Always remind yourself of where you're going, the person you want to become, the career you want to have, the types of people you want to be surrounded by, the place you'd like to live. Think big picture, have an idea of where you're going, what your true north is, but then bring it back to the very moment of where you're in. Lean into the challenges, very key. It's not the mindset of X is happening to me. It's actually this is happening for me. Change the mindset and the perspective of the challenges. They're inevitable. They're going to come. Even if you had the perfect blueprint, things are going to rise. You have to lean into it. Number 3, patience, patience, patience. Write this on a sticky note. Stick it to your head. Think of the bearded man. You got to enjoy the process. There's nothing worse than getting to the final destination and hating the entire way of getting there. Patience, patience, patience. And number 4 and final lesson, focus on the small wins. Count up those 1 to 3 wins that will help you improve, that you can do today that will better you for tomorrow. Just like playing Jenga. You got to brick by brick, stack up the blocks in order to enjoy the actual game. And similarly with our life, brick by brick, 1 to 3 wins per brick, I would say. You got to stack them up in order to enjoy the pleasure of living the life that you always dreamed of. So my challenge for you guys and gals, ask yourself, are you growing mentally, physically, spiritually? Insert any area of your life that are most important to you by 1% per day. If no, what can you do differently to change that? Can you put more effort into it? Can you change something up? What can you do that will help you improve an area of your life that you're focused on that's a priority to you by 1% per day? Ask yourself that question. That's my challenge for you guys and gals. Let me get a sip of water real quick, and then we'll get into questions from the BMC. Man, I'm on a roll today. As I was bumping Drizzy, Tootsie side, can't stop, won't stop. Man, I wish I could sing like him. He's so freaking good. Shout out to 6 Guy if you're listening, which you're not, but hey, come through, let's podcast. Let's talk it up, boy. He's not going to hear that. Question from the BMC. I always post this on my IG story. I ask for topics, questions, insert, boom. Shout out to my man, Viddy. He's a fellow employee of Liquid IV. He's cooking up some high-quality content. Shout out to you. He said, it'd be dope to hear your thoughts about learning from / letting go of past mistakes. Great topic, Viddy. And that's similarly what we talked about earlier. Lean into the challenges. How is this happening for me instead of to me? So that's what I do with how I let go of past mistakes and how I learn from them. I don't think of it as like this happened to me. I think this happened for me. What are the lessons? What are the takeaways? How is this making me a better, stronger person? I think that's the key, Viddy. Whatever mistakes or challenges you've had in your own past, ask yourself, how did that make you a better person? How does it set you up for a better success of where you are today? Think about it. There's got to be something. And anything that negatively impacted your life, just put it in one ear, out the other. Don't hold on to it. Don't get caught up in that freight train that just keeps running and running. You're digging yourself down, thinking about how you messed up and it like screwed you up. Don't go down that rabbit hole. Just think of how it has helped you. And that's for me what it is. Instead of thinking this happened to me, I think this happened for me. That's the change of perspective. Shout out to my man, Ben Loughran. I hope I pronounced that right. He said, giving yourself credit for good intentions. Ooh, do I love this. Intention is so key. First off, you got to become your biggest hype man or hype woman. I talked about on a recent podcast. And to go off that, you got to pat yourself on the back. You got to give yourself credit for showing up. Even if you got that 0.25% of a win today, pat yourself on the back for showing up, for trying, for giving a little bit of effort. It is not easy building the dream life that you envision. Whether you know what you want to do with your life or whether you have no idea. Whichever path you're on right now, Give yourself credit for showing up. If you know what you're doing and you keep working towards it and you're stressed out because you're not getting the goals and you're not tackling things as fast and efficiently as you would like, pat yourself on the back because you're working towards it. You're doing your thing. If you're somebody that has no clue what you're doing, you're trying to figure it out, you feel like everyone else around you has it all figured out and you don't, hey, guess what? I was there. I've been in your shoes, believe it or not. Not too long ago, about 4 years ago, graduated college, didn't know what I wanted to do, started the podcast, the rest is history. But I didn't know in that moment that this is where it would take me. So enjoy the process of trying things and throwing yourself out there. But at the end of the day, give yourself credit and give yourself some breathing room. Pat yourself on the back. You have to be your biggest hype man and hype woman. Last one. This has absolutely nothing to do with today's episode, but had to throw it in. Josh Clean, I think. He said, "How do you keep that beard so fresh?" Josh, you want to know? Find a great barber. My barber does an amazing job and keeps his baby maintenance. I won't go into any more details because I know you guys and gals do not care about my beard maintenance, but I see a barber every 2 weeks. Is that a little extra, a little over the top? Yes. Am I ashamed? No. Do I love it? Absolutely. So I'm going to keep coming back. Ladies and gentlemen, wow, I feel great about this podcast. This was good. For me personally, loved it. I really think this was a good one, and I hope you guys and gals did too. If you enjoyed it, you know the drill. I asked for the favor earlier. Going to bring back that favor. Please screenshot this episode, post it to your IG story, tag me at Bob-A, B-O, 3 B's, 4 A's, and Y. Share it out on your Instagram story and tell people why they need to listen. That's how we grow this podcast organically. I can't say it enough, but those of you who are doing that and sharing it out, it means the world to me. I got a big old smile on my face when I see these podcast episodes get reshared. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I don't know where you guys and gals are in your life. I don't know where you are in the world, but I appreciate you taking the time to tune into this content. I really sincerely do. It means a lot to me. I put a lot of time, effort, energy, thoughts, love, passion, time, everything into this podcast project. I give it my all. I try to share as much of my experiences because I'm 26 years young. I got a lot more left a lot more gas in the tank, but I hope that the lessons and things that I'm learning can be helpful to you guys and gals. So thank you for tuning in. I greatly, greatly appreciate it. If you got a topic or question you would like me to cover, shoot me a DM. Hit me up. I'd love to take more topics that you guys and gals are interested in instead of pulling it out of the bearded man beard right here and just pulling out topics. I'd love to dive into anything that you'd love me to cover. So let me know. That's it. We will see you guys and gals soon enough. It's your favorite, the world's favorite bearded man, Bob-A. See you guys and gals soon enough. See ya.